Recevoir notre deuxième intervenante où on va essayer de comprendre le rôle de la régulation pour l'accélération du développement durable du secteur de l'assurance. Je demande d'accueillir Petra HIELKEMA, présidente de l'Autorité européenne des assurances et des pensions professionnelles, l'EIOPA. Petra HIELKEMA. Petra, can
Bonjour, hello, how are you?
Fine, and you? Can you see us? Do you listen to me? I can see you and I can listen to you very well. Everything is okay for you?
Yes. For me, everything is fine and I enjoyed the interview you just had, so look forward to mine.
Thank you for being with us today. It's a great honor to have you here. So we had, you've seen, if you watched the Susan and the United States perspective, and we're going to have with you the European perspective, and from the view of the European Insurance of Occupational Pensions Authority. And I will start with the same question about the context and the time we've been through, and we're still going through now because of the COVID-19, and we will talk later about the political context around the world with the conflicts and the war between Russia and Ukraine. But first, we've been through a very difficult period for everybody. So in your opinion, what are the key lessons that we have learned, or you have learned, from the pandemic in the insurance business?
Yes, thank you. And a very relevant question, of course. Corona crisis was, I think, a challenging and often a bleak period for all over the world. And so I think one of the lessons is that some problems are really cross-border and we need to work together. But also I think what we've seen, and I can mostly of course speak for the European industry, is that the insurance industry actually weathered quite well through the crisis, and that in no small part is thanks to the Solvency II framework and the fact that insurers at the start of the crisis had robust buffers. So I'm very happy that that was the case and that they were also able to fulfill a role. That doesn't mean there were no problems. I think that the pandemic also shed a light on those contracts where policy conditions were not always clear, where consumers expected more than they were getting, where people were disappointed, and that is never good for trust. Sometimes that was indeed because the consumers themselves did not have a good understanding. Sometimes it was indeed because the text wasn't clear. And finally, of course, we saw exclusions happening along the way. For example, excluding pandemic from travel insurance. Now here we've already taken action and we're looking into ways to also communicate that to the market. Naturally, it is for an insurance company to decide what they insure or not. However, if they would include or exclude certain risks, I think it is key, or it is key, that consumers are informed about this in a very clear and understandable way. I think with that, so the exclusion part, we see an issue that we need to deal with, but I think overall, again, the insurance industry did quite well during COVID.
So what we've been through maybe is going to change the future. So let's talk about the future. How can you see the insurance industry in Europe in the future? Are there some specific challenges that we will have to face, or the industry will have to face in the upcoming 5 years?
Yeah, which is my term. So thanks for the question, and it's what I'm thinking about. I think, first of all, and this is definitely also an opportunity, of course, we see digitalization, and I think that really speed up during the crisis with those who were maybe at countries supervisors who still needed to step up a little bit in becoming digital. They did. So I think for the level playing field of being digital, I think the crisis was actually a good thing, because I see more people at the same level now. Now, having said that, of course, digitalization will go on. The pandemic is not gone, and climate change is very much top of my agenda when it comes to risks. So I think what that means and how the insurance will look, I don't have a crystal ball, but I see three developments. First of all, I see, of course, more digitalization happening. And so that means that we need to pay attention to both the way we supervise, the skills we have, but also how industry is adjusting and how consumers are protected. The second development I see that is that insurance very often was known for group structures with a group and subsidiaries, and I would expect that there will be more home host structures, which of course, when you can provide your services digitally, particularly with an app on the basis of one license and a passport in Europe, which will become more relevant. And this requires also supervisors to look at it differently. And then also, again, it requires conduct supervision to be more important. And moreover, of course, we need to really pay attention to sustainability. I realize it's a lot, and I will talk about that furthermore in my speech, but we have to do it now, because if we don't start now, it will be even more challenging tomorrow.
Well, let's talk about regulation, but because that's your everyday job, isn't it? Yeah. So, insurance industry is one of, we can say, about one of the most regulated sectors in the world, and that's good, because it cannot be weak. But do we need more rules or more principles and dialogue between supervisors and the insurance industry? Can we say that insurance sector is over-regulated?
Well, I would definitely say that the insurance industry is highly regulated. It is. That's a reality. And it lays a foundation. I lays a foundation on how business is conducted, but also, I think, a basis for trust and a basis for robustness in times of crisis. At the same time, we should be alert for new legislation does not always mean better results. And also, regulations that we have, because it is principle based, often already allows for a lot of room, even to deal with new developments. So in general, for example, take artificial intelligence. I think that on the basis of what we already have, a GDPR, Solvency II, and the Insurance Distribution Directive in Europe, I think as supervisors, we have a lot of tools already to deal with these new developments. And if we need to explain, well, we can add some guidance. At the same time, we also see that at the Commission's level, there are some horizontal acts now coming into being. The GDPR was a very important one for data privacy. We see the Data Act now coming, but we also see the Artificial Intelligence Act. Now, on the one hand, I welcome that, because this is an act that is really tailor-made to new technology, and that technology wasn't there when other legislation was drafted. At the same time, I would say that we should be very conscious on how we include insurance in those acts. For, again, insurance is already highly regulated, and second, we should really base it on insurance use cases and make it insurance specific, for the tendency of horizontal axis, of course, that it tries to cover a lot. But as long as we make it insurance specific, if we include the knowledge and the notion that there is already a lot of supervision, we could actually keep legislation fit for purpose without creating too much more new rules.
Well, and finally, let's talk, as I said earlier, let's talk about what's happening between Russia and Ukraine right now and the impact of the insurance sector and, as a consequence, the impact of all the sanctions on the sector.
Yeah, thank you. Of course, this has been top of mind. It's sad that it has to be top of mind, and naturally, like the European Commission, we condemn the invasion in Ukraine. We also look very carefully at the implementation of the sanctions. Here we come in as supervisors. What I see is that the insurers in Europe are very much working on the implementation of sanctions. We think that is key. We also see that it is a lot of work. We see that it is resulting in a lot of questions, and we're setting up ways to facilitate the answering of the questions, while of course mentioning that we also need to really ensure that the sanctions are implemented. Moreover, again, here you see that insurers also have other very important roles to play. So you see across Europe now refugees being included into health insurance, which is important, but also insurers themselves actually stepping up to deal with car insurance for refugees from Ukraine, stepping in already in the first weekends they were dealing with that. So I think that is it just shows how relevant insurance is in the basic needs of people, how important it is they are acting quickly when needed, and how good it is that they did.
Thank you, Petra, for being with us today, and hope we'll see you very soon. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye.